So dear learners, let us begin with the first very important topic from chapter 2, that is Principles of Henry Fayol. Now students, you must be knowing that Henry Fayol has given 14 principles of general management, and if you need to remember all 14 on your tips, you just have to remember a very short story, a very short interesting story, which is in the form of दादू आई सीढ़ी पे सोए आए रे. आपको सिर्फ इतना सा याद रखना है कि दादू जी आए, सीढ़ी पे सो गए और वो आए. And this is all your 14 principles. You will be surprised to know this is the first one, second, third, fourth, fifth. This combinedly is the sixth principle. This is the seventh one. This is the eighth one. 9, 10, 11 and 12, 13, 14. So just remember Dadu IGI CD pe soye aire. So let's see how it looks like. Here D stands for discipline. Then A stands for authority and responsibility. This next D stands for division of work. U is nothing but unity of command. Another U is for unity of direction. IGI is one and the same single principle, which says individual interest to general interest. So this G has been used to indicate general interest. The whole principle is basically subordination of individual interest to general interest. CD is nothing but centralization and decentralization. This PE denotes stability of personnel. Personnel's stability you can remember like this. Then SOE, here S stands for scalar chain, O stands for order, E stands for equity, the principle of equity. Then I is nothing but initiative, R is remuneration, and students, the last principle, nothing but esprit de corps. So you see how quickly you can get through all these 14 principles on your tips by remembering a short story, Dadu IGI, CD pe soye ai re. So let us move on to the topic NCERT, that what it has to say regarding all these 14 principles. So dear learners, now let us see what NCERT has to say in regard to Fayol's principles. So on page number 54, they have given this 14 principles of management by Henry Fayol, and who is also called the father of general management. So the very first principle being D, that is division of work. What all you are supposed to write in this, I am showing you exactly that points from NCERT so that you don't mistake it. Division of work. Here you can write that the work is to be divided into small tasks and competent is required to perform each job. So it leads to specialization, and basically the intent of this particular principle is to produce more and better work because the same effort is put in by a specialist in a more efficient and effective manner. They've also talked about efficiency, specialized tasks, trained specialists, and resulting in effective and efficient outputs. So separate departments are there and specialized persons are there. So this principle applies the division of work to all kinds of technical. They have specifically mentioned this, that the work is divided technically as well as managerially. So all these points that I just told you, you have to write whenever you get this principle to explain. Let us move forward. The next principle being A, authority and responsibility. Now authority is the right to order and obtain the obedience, while responsibility is the corollary of authority. So you have to write these particular lines when you get this principle. Corollary means that A comes along with R and they have to be equal at any point of time. There should not be any kind of imbalance between the two in order to get the work done in a perfect manner. So they have also given an example here. Manager should have necessary authority to carry out the responsibility. Necessary authority does not mean that authority has to be more than responsibility. It neither means that authority has to be lesser than responsibility. They have to be exactly equal to discharge the work properly in a proper manner. If there is an imbalance, then it leads to problems like excess authority will lead to its overuse, its you can say the negative use, and if the authority will be lesser than responsibility, the duties will not be discharged as on time. So students, you have to remember these points while you explain A. Next in line is again a D with discipline, and discipline is necessary to obtain obedience. It is a set of rules, and few things have been talked about regarding these rules, that it should be at all levels, clear, fair agreements and judicious applications. Dear students, I am opening this book and showing you the points so that you can write exactly what is expected when you get this principle to explain. Because I have seen many students that they get the principle right, they identify them right, but when explaining, they don't write the keywords. So these are basically the keywords you need to focus upon. So there has to be an agreement on all this, and that agreement has to be a fair one, a judicious application of penalties if required, so as to ensure that there is obedience in the entire organization culture. So the next principle, one more thing that has been talked about, is without any prejudice towards another. Prejudice, there should be no presumptions while forming this principle of discipline by the management. The next in line comes U with unity of command. So unity of command, you must have heard of that there should be one and only one boss for every individual, because if there will be two superiors at the same time, two superiors can be there but not at the same time. If it is at the same time, then this principle gets violated, and due to its violation, what happens that the work does not get discharged properly. The employee gets an excuse and does not do the work. So here it is clearly said, you better mention this line. It's a very nice line under this topic, unity of command. Authority is undermined, the discipline is in jeopardy, order gets disturbed, and stability is threatened. You better remember these four words under unity of command. U. Unity of command, they have told about discipline. First is authority, which is undermined, discipline is in jeopardy, the order gets disturbed, and stability is threatened. Anyway, you have to write this order. ADOS, ADOS, you can write, remember it as ADOS. Authority is undermined, discipline is in jeopardy, order is disturbed, and stability is threatened. So always remember ADOS whenever you explain unity of command. So if you write this much, it's more than enough. Dual subordination will definitely should be avoided, because in order to prevent confusion, the task has to be done by only one superior at a time. Next in line is again another U called unity of direction. And students, whenever you explain these principles, you have to mention about coordinated efforts, that the organization should be achieving its objectives only through coordinated and focused efforts. If each group member, they have their own things to do, then with no particular plan in hand, with no one direction, they will not lead to anywhere. So one hand, one plan. This ensures unity of action as well as coordination, which is utmost important in order to achieve the common organizational goals. Each division should have its own in charge, plans and execution resources. No account should be, two divisions should not overlap in order to maintain this principle of unity of direction. So till now, students, we have covered the 5 principles with the acronym DADU. Now the next in line is IGI. If I say IGI, this is nothing but one single principle of subordination of individual interest to the general interest. The interest of an organization should be taken as priority, and every individual must subordinate his or her own interest in front of the larger interest of the organization. This has been talked about. Every worker has some individual interest, you can explain it like this, but the company has got its own objectives, and therefore the maximum amount can be achieved only when the employees, they have the subordinated their own individual interest. So employee may want to get maximum salary, but in another situation individual employee may demand some concession. So these are the particular demands from every individual. So in all the such situations, we have to see the interest of the entire group or the company that must supersede the interest of the individual. The interest of company must supersede, because larger interests are more important, and it will automatically lead to covering the interest of the individuals associated with the organization. So dear students, you must also go through these boxes which give differentiation and some important points. It may come, just have a glance over them before you go for your exam. CD pe soye. So CD, now we have the principle of centralization and decentralization. We will see this first. It is CD. So centralization, students, you already understand that it is concentration of decision making authority, and decentralization is dispersal till the lowest level, more than one person. Decentralization till the lowest level we call it. Delegation till the lowest level is decentralization. So there has to be again a balance between these two. No organization can be fully decentralized, or neither it can be fully centralized. There has to be a balance so that final authority retains with the management at central level, and subordinates also feel free through a decentralized method that they are also empowered to take few decisions. So this has all been talked about. In general, large organizations have more decentralization because it's more vast, and therefore more time will be required if everything is kept centralized. So it gives more powers to the people attached to it, but we cannot say that complete decentralization works. There has to be some final authority reserved only with the top level so as to continue with the centralization method. So CD pe soye. Now we have to see the next principle of PE as stability of personnel. So in stability of personnel, we have taken this PE, because ultimately we have to remember that short story, Dadu IGI, CD pe soye I re. So pay is for personnel. Personnel means we need to talk about the employees. Now employees turnover should be minimized. The very first line of this principle says that turnover should be minimized. Turnover is like how the employees leaving the organization, few others joining them. So all these turbulence leads to instability in the organization. It unnecessarily leads to higher training costs and more time in adjusting with the environment. So all these needs to be avoided, and therefore when the personnel is selected and they are appointed, there has to be a rigorous procedure for their selection, so that they have to work at least for a minimum fixed tenure. Few organizations also get the bond signed, as you would have heard of. So reasonable time they should be given to show their results. This is also mentioned in this point, that some reasonable time must be given to the workers to show their results, and any quick decision from the management should not come regarding expulsion of an employee. Any ad hoc basis we call the contractuals, will create instability in the organization and insecurity in the minds of the employees. So this should be avoided. So even the training cost and again recruitment and selection will be very high. So therefore tenure must be good for any business, so as to minimize the turnover. You better remember this point, that turnover should be minimized under stability of personnel. So we have covered this point, pay. Next in line is SOE, S-O-E. So for SOE we must remember S for scalar chain, O for order, and E for equity. So if we have to talk about scalar chain, you must, students, mention the point of hierarchical levels. Okay. So in this you have to write that there are some formal lines of authority from highest to lowest, which is also referred to as the scalar chain. Now according to Fayol, this chain of authority and communication that runs from top to bottom must be followed by all the managers as well as subordinates. You can write this in your own language, but I am showing you exact words from NCERT to cover under this point called scalar chain. And then one more thing that has been talked about under this principle is nothing but your gangplank, as you already know. So you better refer to this diagram for that. And dear students, let me tell you this thing, that whenever you get the question on principles of management, they are generally of as long answers. So if you get a long question, you must make diagrams wherever possible. The two things which will help you get 95 up is the extra skills like diagrammatic representations, use of keywords, use of acronyms, the reading of case studies from below. All these things are covered, and apart from that you must also give some valuable current affairs related to the topic, that what exactly is happening in today's world, in the business world, as far as that topic is concerned, upcoming exams. So this is the diagram which has been given in the book for scalar chain. You see that there is a channel of authority, a chain of communication, A to B, B to C, C to D, and these are this right hand side is a different department, A to L, L to M, M to M. They cannot talk with each other, this is not allowed. But in case of an emergency, this line is connected, which shows that it is communication is allowed in case of emergency with the name called gangplank. So this particular things you should mention and mark whenever you make the diagram for this topic. And similarly you can explain. It's not necessary, students, that you need to name in the same manner. Any name you can give, just you have to show. It's not even that necessary to show all the levels till this till F. It can only be up till here to save your time, and then you can connect C with M to show the gangplank. But this diagram has to be given whenever you explain this principle. So this covers our scalar chain. Next in line is order. Now for order you generally get confused with that in discipline. So order and discipline are two separate principles given by Fayol. Order does not mean discipline, neither it is connected to it. Order means when we enter a house, we say yes, the things are orderly kept. So that same thing you can apply here in this principle. They say that the people and the materials must be at suitable places at appropriate time. सही जगह पे सही चीज़ सही टाइम पर मिलनी चाहिए जिससे कि हमें मैक्सिमम एफिशिएंसी मिल पाए. एफिशिएंसी मीन्स कॉस्ट मिनिमाइज हो पाए, रिसोर्सेज प्रॉपरली अप टू मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल एक्सटेंट यूज़ हो पाए एंड इफेक्टिवनेस बढ़ जाए, हम टाइम पे अपना काम पूरा कर पाएँ, बिकॉज दीज टू कॉन्सेप्ट्स रन हैंड इन हैंड विद द मैनेजमेंट, इफेक्टिवनेस एंड एफिशिएंसी. सो इट हैज़ टू बी अचीव्ड, and with this principle the things become easier because a place is there for everything and everyone. People के लिए भी place होनी चाहिए and materials के लिए भी place होनी चाहिए. The human resources should have a particular place as well as the physical resources in the organization should have particular places in order to find them very quickly and get the work done very fast as well as in an efficient manner. So fixed place for everything and it should be present. So this has been talked about. This will increase effectiveness and efficiency. You can mention that. Then the next principle in line is E of SOE, SOE. So E stands for equity and this is very familiar word for you because it comes in our constitution too. So you can write that all employees should be treated fairly as possible. There should be no discrimination between them against anyone on account of sex, religion, language, caste, belief or nationality. So everybody must be treated similar and they should work together, because if we will keep them away from discrimination free environment, if we will give, then only they will be able to give their best at the workplace. So equal opportunities must be available to all. So these two words also you can mention, discrimination free environment and equal opportunities. So we have covered SOE. Now the last three is I-RAY. I stands for initiative, R being remuneration and E standing for esprit de corps. So we will see them one by one. Here I is initiative. Initiative means the workers must be encouraged to develop and carry out the plans for improvement of the organization. Like they must be given motivation to take the first step, and rather they should be self-motivated as well to take the first step towards execution of some plan, thinking out about them, and it is one of the traits of an intelligent person, they have told. So initiative should be encouraged by the organization too, and the company must have an employee suggestion system. This also comes in this. So a case study can be formulated from this particular word, and thereby they should be given substantial time and cost reduction should be rewarded. They should be given rewards for substantial time and cost reductions. So all these points, students, when you read NCERT line by line and you take out answers from there, it is helpful in two ways. First of all, when you get this point, if there is an open question to explain initiative, which is less likely to be there these days, so you have to explain them using these points only, as I have highlighted. Secondly, when you read the book line by line, there are generally few examples given at the end. Usually students ignore them. But when you see in the exam, in the questions, surprisingly all the case studies are formulated from these examples. So line by line reading, that is why is advisable of NCERT. But since you are having just your exams in the next few days, so I am just depicting you the important lines from NCERT itself, which will take you to correct explanation of these topics. So I-RAY, R stands for remuneration. I think this point has already gone up. In remuneration of employees, it talks about pay and compensation, which should be fair to both the employees as well as the organization. Now people say that if someone is working overtime, it should be same, it should be equal. You remember students, the NCERT is not talking about equal pay. Rather, they are talking about fair pay and compensation. Fair means as per the work. So, the work, as according to the work, the compensation or the payment or the salary must be given to the employees. They should be paid fair wages with at least a reasonable standard of living. There are some guidelines as per the Act as well. So, following that, there should be reasonable standard of payment according to the work. At the same time, it should be within the paying capacity of the company. So, from both the sides, the principal is talking about. For employees, they should be able to maintain a reasonable standard of living, while from the organization's point, they should have the paying capacity for that particular remuneration, and it should be just and equitable. It should be fair, just and equitable to promote a congenial atmosphere and good relations between the workers and the management. So, all these things you can write that regarding fair, just and equitable compensation, maintaining the reasonable standard from employees' point of view and paying capacity of the firm, so as to maintain a cordial environment between the two. So, last point is, I think, the most favorite one, because students generally remember this word as it is slightly different: esprit de corps. So, this principle, standing with letter T, IRE. So, last one, it promotes team spirit, unity, harmony, coordination, synchronization, everything, binding force, all that things you can write, whatever you have learnt in the concept of coordination, where I must replace we. Because you know, students, whenever you write such points explaining them, you can also put one-liner thoughts to explain it better. So, here I replaced with we can say, when in illness, the I is replaced with we, it becomes wellness. So, this thought can be put here, that there is more work done and better work done when we work as a team. This point fosters team spirit, it creates mutual trust and belongingness amongst the team members, and it minimizes the use of penalties, because penalty is something negative that creates a negative vibe in the entire environment of the organization. So, it should be avoided, and it is only possible when the people are they feel the belongingness and the team spirit and the trust, mutual trust between each other, in order to continue with the organization in its full spirit. So, that's all regarding the 14 principles of Fayol. I hope they are very clear. So, just remember a short story called Dadu IGI CD pe soye Aire, and you are on to the all 14 principles of Fayol. Dear students, now let us see a case-based question that has come in the examination in the last previous year question papers from this particular topic called Principles of General Management by Henry Fayol. So, the case study says, let's read the last line first. Principle of management followed by Smile Dental Clinic. It's a one marker. So, we have to tick one of the principles, and the principles that are given are D, E, O, I. So, out of these four, we need to select one. Let us read the case study from top. Sangeeta visited Smile Dental Clinic for treatment of toothache. She observed, it was her observation, that receptionist was seated at the reception desk. The place fixed for her dental instruments were laid neatly in dental instrument trays, and the used instruments were in the place of sterilization area. So, there was a fixed place for everything and it was present there. So, there is no hindrance in the work, and the dentist was working with her maximum efficiency due to this. So, clearly you can make out that which principle is this. Everything having its own place, everyone, even the person, receptionist, is sitting at her own place. So, it's none other than the principle of order that has been followed by Smile Dental Clinic. So, that's it. Thank you.